Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin Polito. I'm the Neighborhood Affairs Division Director at the City of Miami Beach. Thank you all for joining us this evening, where we are going to have our community meeting for 1250 West Avenue. I'm going to quickly just look through our list. I want to thank Mayor Stephen Miner, as well as his Deputy Chief of Staff, Blake Govin, for taking the time to join us. I see we also have Commissioner Laura Dominguez's office with her aide, Julian Cano. And just give me a quick second to just make sure we're not missing anybody. I see we have Commissioner Alex Fernandez's office as well joining us. Thank you so much. And I think I saw Commissioner Joe Magazine as well. Thank you all for taking time to join us this afternoon. Before we get started, I'm just going to quickly go through the run of show. Tonight's presentation is part of, and sorry, I lost one of my panelists. Oops, we will get you back on in a moment. So tonight's presentation is for 1250 West Avenue. And just, sorry, we are losing a few people. Let's see if we could find where they went. For tonight's presentation, it's pursuant to the city code to host today's meeting. Just to be clear, we have the first preliminary planning board presentation that took place. This is the first community meeting that is taking place. It will go back to the planning board, and then eventually there will be a second community meeting. So we're going to hire a presentation from the developer, and after the presentation, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A. And then we'll also hear, I think, from Mr. Michael Belush, who I think I might have lost. And as I'm looking through my list, I apologize. Commissioner Alex Fernandez is also joining us. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for taking the time this afternoon. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. either Michael Stern or Michael Larkin to kick us off. Introduce your team. We'll hear the presentation. Then we'll turn it over to Q&A. Michaels?
Yep, I'll go first. Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate the introduction. I'm Michael Larkin. I'm the attorney representing the applicant here, who's Michael Stern with JDS. Along with me today is Kobe Karp, our design architect, and my colleague, Nicholas Rodriguez. Could someone pull up the presentation? Thank you. Next slide. So 1250 West Avenue is located at basically the midpoint of the West Avenue corridor. There is an existing multifamily building within the property now. The zoning is RM3. Next slide. We are creating what's called an overlay zoning district. You do that by submitting an amendment to the comp plan and to the city's resiliency code. Together, once adopted, you will create an overlay zoning district. Ours happens to be called the Alton Beach Overlay Zoning District that will permit the construction of this tremendous project that we are proposing to the city. Next slide. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Michael Stern, and he's going to walk you through his design philosophy and what he brings to the table. Go ahead, Michael. I think you're muted, Michael.
Okay, better. Everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. And first, I wanted to thank everybody for joining us this evening and giving us your time and consideration. It is very meaningful to us to have such a tremendous participation, and we will carefully consider all of the feedback we get. And we're going to run you through some of the adjustments we've made both to the building and to the public benefits package, based on a variety of conversations we've had thus far with various stakeholders. And we want to particularly thank all the elected officials for joining us and for their input thus far. And with that, I'll run you through and apologize if anybody has seen our presentation before. Some of it will repeat, but a lot of it is new. So just to start, we actually developed the property directly adjacent to this building called Monad Terrace. This is a fast image of what it looked like before, which was a bunch of low-rise houses that were in relatively poor condition with a cul-de-sac and some issues, and we did an assemblage there. and developed a new building, which we are very proud of, that we think is the jewel of the corridor today. You can go to the next slide. So this is Monad Terrace now. So what was 13 homes on a cul-de-sac was redeveloped into a kind of next generation building under the current zoning. Very large family-friendly units, not a very dense development, but we think a great addition to the neighborhood. It is the most resilient building in South Beach, built to the newest codes. It does have no pedestal. We spent the money and took the time to sink the parking underground in a very resilient basement that's performed very well. And one of the keys, we don't have a parking pedestal that is similar. You could kind of see it on the right-hand side of this image. We don't have a parking pedestal that runs all the way to the street like the Waverly does, which we don't think is the best way to greet the street. Instead, we have a very lush landscape buffer zone between the sidewalk and the front of the building, which is something we like. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And I'm going to show you some images of the Waverly pedestal as we go forward. You can go to the next slide. So the building also has a very special and iconic facade. It's an organic living facade. It's a very architecturally significant building that was designed by Jean Nouvel in collaboration with Kobe Karp as well. And it just demonstrates that we care about the imprint that we leave on neighborhoods. We care about, even after we leave them, how our buildings not only treat the people that live in them, but also the neighborhood around it. We're very conscious of our surroundings. And go to the next slide. So that brings us to this site, which is just adjacent to Monad Terrace. What is the existing building? So this was originally not a residential building, which is why you'll notice it has no balconies. It was originally built as a healthcare facility. It's in very poor condition. It's obsolete. It's a financial albatross on those who currently live there. There's 238 existing units in the building. And then that leaves us to the building's definitely got to go. And then what do you do with it? So that leaves us with our development options. So one is an as-of-right development, of course, under the current zoning, and we're going to run you through what that might look like, and then our proposed redevelopment. So if you go to the next slide. So this is the kind of pink massing is the massing of what an as-of-right building would look like on the site. The site allows for almost 300 units of density, about 286. The setbacks are exactly as you see in this diagram for both the pedestal and the tower. The setbacks are relatively minimal, and it would basically create a short and squat building that puts a very long wall to greet each of our neighbors, both Monad Terrace and 1228 West Avenue, and would put those buildings into permanent shadow by putting a 375-foot long wall on each side. Let's go to the next one, which leads us to what we are proposing, which is a building that has a much more compact tower footprint. It has a tiered pedestal, a podium that sets back from both the street and the water with much greater setbacks. We are proposing a building that has a lot less density, between 100 and 125 units is what we're proposing, which minimizes traffic impact, sewer impact, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But the main thing is a much more compact tower footprint and an opportunity to create something that's truly iconic and something that fits the context and is respectful, but is also iconic at the same time. And we're going to talk through this massing that you're seeing now is massed at 420 feet, which is our original proposal. We're going to talk about, as we get into it a little bit more, based on a lot of input from the electeds and from city staff, who we have tremendous respect for. We are going to bring the building down in height roughly to match the Waverly. So it's going to go from about 420 feet to approximately 360 feet. So it's going to be significantly shorter than what's shown here, but will still be taller than what the current zoning allows, which is what you're seeing on each side. So essentially, we're going to avoid creating a new height precedent by matching the Waverly height, but still deliver a tremendous public benefits package and a much more attractive massing. And I'm going to run you through some slides to show the real world impact of what that looks like. If you can go to the next slide, Nick. So this is an as-of-right pedestal condition. So this would be the building footprint up to 50 feet in height. So you'd have a 20-foot front setback and a 42-foot rear setback on the waterfront, which would create a 372-foot long wall at the pedestal greeting each neighbor. If you go to the next slide. And this is what we are proposing in our tower, which is a tiered stepped podium. That creates a lot more setbacks both to the water and to the street. And we'll run through the impacts of that in great detail in the tower. But only the dark gray portion here is actually up to the 50-foot height. The lighter gray portions are stepping down and becoming lower. And we'll show you a bunch of images that demonstrate that. You can go to the next slide. And this is the tower footprint. So that means from 50 feet up to the top in the as of right condition. So in the as of right condition, you get a 50-foot front setback and a 63-foot rear setback with still a 300+ foot long wall that runs all the way up to 150+ feet. If you go to the next slide. And here is what we are proposing. So this is essentially a tower footprint that's only 100 foot deep, 104 feet. But if you look at the setbacks both to the water and to the street, you have 140 feet from the water and 197, almost 200 feet from the street. This footprint is much more respectful to its neighbors. It will not put these buildings into permanent shadow like the as of right condition would, and it allows for significantly better architectural expression and a much more interesting building. So let's go through some more slides. Go to the next one. So this is the as of right condition and its impact on 1228 West Avenue, our neighbor immediately on one side. So you see a pedestal that's similar to what the Waverly's current condition is that runs to the street, and then a setback tower above that. And go to the next slide. And this is what we're proposing, which is again that tiered setback that goes up with a much smaller footprint, much less impactful, preserving views both from the front units at Monad Terrace and to the corner units facing the water on 1228 and Monad. Let's go to the next slide. And this is from a unit at Monad facing West Avenue. So this is the condition on a balcony on a current Monad unit, which you can see the impact there with the smaller street setback. You can go to the next slide. And this is our tiered pedestal and the impact that it has. It's a significantly better condition that preserves views from the units at Monad. You go to the next slide. And this is a straight on view, very important view of the as of right condition, very squat, very architecturally uninteresting. Let's go to the next slide. And this is what we are proposing, which is a much more dynamic, architecturally interesting landscape front. And actually we have a rendering, I think, following this, Nick. There you go. So this is a real world condition of what we would propose, which is a heavily landscaped front, stepped setback that's very attractive. And then the tower, which is much further set back from the street, so it doesn't overwhelm the street. You'll notice that 1228 West Avenue has most of its views preserved, much better than the as of right condition, and Monad kind of the same thing. Let's keep going. And this is the Waverly pedestal. So this is the condition in the as of right, which we're trying to avoid, which is a pedestal that comes all the way up to the front and greets the street in an unpleasant way. If you can go back one slide, Nick. So this is, again, we think a much better condition. And next slide, again, the Waverly, not the best way to greet the street, not a great condition. Let's go to the next one. So this is an image of the Waverly and our tower, our proposed tower. Next to it, this tower and this massing is actually massed at about 420 feet. So the building will actually shrink from this image a bit, but it gives you an idea. You can see that step podium and that slender, more compact tower footprint, which really does minimize the view impacts. Let's go to the next slide. Michael Larkin, you want to take over?
Great, sure. So what we're trying to do now in listening to, again, what Michael said, staff and certainly all of our elected officials is try to be contextual. We felt that the original version of our project was, but in listening to some concerns that were voiced, that's why Michael suggested we reduce the height to match the height of the Waverly, which up to its parapet is 362. So if you look up and down this corridor, whether it's the Floridian, even farther south, you have the Icon, or a little bit to the north, with a Flamingo, the center tower at 338. We are absolutely compatible with this built environment. Next slide. So with regard to our public benefits, we again have been listening to the stakeholders along the West Avenue corridor, meeting with the elected officials, talking to staff. And what we have done, we've changed it around. So we are still going to acquire the Bikini Hostel property. This will be a tremendous benefit for this neighborhood. We were going to do a parking garage, but we felt that a park might be a better use for this corridor. There are some parks that are close, Flamingo Park, and then the park associated with Five Park, but it's always nice to have something right in your backyard. And we'd be open to suggestions about how this park should be. Should it be a dog park? Should it be a passive park? We'll love to hear some suggestions tonight. And that value, of course, will be between 14.5 to 15.5 million for the acquisition and redevelopment of the property as a park. Next, what the city manager asked us to consider, we accepted, is to not grant funds to the city so that they would construct the missing segments of the Baywalk, but that we would do it. So what we're going to do is take over control over the missing links behind 800 West Avenue and 1228, our immediate neighbor to the south, and construct these missing links at a value, again, yeah, as you see, from 4 to 5.5 million. The last bit of this is we could develop attainable housing units. We could purchase existing buildings or build from scratch. That's one thing we could do with this bracket. We could also develop public parking within West Avenue corridor or grant funds to the city for West Avenue Phase 3 or the other items that are listed here, all for a value of 9 million. Either we will do this work on our own or grant the exact amount of funds to the city so the city commission could determine the use. Next slide. And as you can see, with this build out of this property in 2030, the amount of city tax skyrockets from 231 to basically just under 2 million a year, which is a significant increase in the tax revenue coming from this property to the city. Next slide. And with regard to our legislation, it is roughly the same. The uses, of course, remain the same. The floor area will be reduced from 7.75 down to 6.0. That, of course, has to come down with that significant height reduction. We were at 420 feet in height. We're reducing that to 360. We are modifying the side interior setbacks. We're asking for a certain number of setback encroachments and mechanical parking. We're asking that that be done as of right, rather than through public hearing at the planning board. Next slide. And this is a slide to show you that the use of bonuses is not coming out of thin air. The city did have a significant bonus system in place. And it's interesting to note that if you look at what's in the red box at 6.0 was a similar FAR bonus that was present in a prior version of the zoning code when bonuses were actually in it. Next slide. So with regard to our bonus criteria, we are looking to reduce the density to 75 units per acre. That's a 50% reduction. That, of course, leads to a much lesser impact on city infrastructure. We're proffering a covenant prohibiting short-term rentals, which, of course, any building in this corridor could have short-term rentals, and we will voluntarily proffer a covenant to prohibit them within our property. And then we're going to enter into a development agreement with the city for capital improvements up and down the West Avenue corridor. We've defined that. You all are familiar with your neighborhood, so I don't need to define it. But these public benefits could either be in the corridor or, if the city commission wishes, could be applied on a citywide basis. Next slide. And the initial terms of the development agreement, because that is the vehicle by which we will operate, and these public benefits will be bestowed upon the city, especially the West Avenue corridor. Again, it's acquiring Bikini Hostel property, developing a public park at a value of 2 million, and at the end conveying that public park to the city. Also, we could develop attainable housing, whether renovating existing building or building from scratch, construct public parking perhaps, or again, grant funds to the city, particularly to help with the Phase 3 West Avenue street raising. And then finally, it's design permitted construct the bay walk behind 800 West Avenue and 1228. Next slide. And we, of course, have done a level service analysis using our urban planner, Rob Curtis. And it's no surprise that with that type of reduction in density, we have a water demand reduction, a sanitary sewer demand reduction, solid waste generation reduction, traffic reduction, and an increase in public recreational open space of just shy of 20,000 square feet because our demand is lessened coming from our property. Next slide. Michael, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Sure. So just to run through a couple of images of the building that you see here. Again, this is massed at 420 feet, so the building will reduce a bit from this angle, but architecturally very similar. Just to demonstrate the level of quality that we're proposing, a very high quality facade. And then we think it'll be like Monad Terrace, very architecturally significant and a real contributor to the architectural fabric of the community. And I think we're pretty much out of slides, right? Just one more context slide. Again, that height will come down a bit. This is shown a bit taller than the Waverly. It'll come down a bit to match. And I think that's it. We thank you for your time, and we're happy to take questions, comments, etc.
Thank you so much, guys. Before we get started with Q&A, I want to turn it over to Mr. Michael Belush. We got disconnected a little earlier. I'm going to have Michael just give some background on the reason for tonight's meeting. I did try to explain it, but Michael always says it much better than I do. So, Michael?
Thanks, Kevin. And sorry I got disconnected earlier, but before we get to public comment, I just want to go through the city's review process. So whenever there's a proposal to increase the FAR or the maximum square footage that can be constructed on a site or a district, which is the case with the proposal tonight, city code regulations require a 6-step review process. Step 1 is a preliminary review by the planning board. And for this application, that occurred on October 29th. Step 2 is the community outreach meeting, which is today's meeting, where comments and input from the public are provided. Step 3 is the second review by the planning board, which will transmit a recommendation to the city commission. This was advertised for the January 7th planning board meeting. However, the applicant has already requested a continuance of the application to the February 4th meeting. So the second planning board meeting will not take place prior to February 4th. Step 4 is the first reading public hearing before the city commission. Step 5 is another community workshop similar to tonight's meeting. Step 6 would be the second reading adoption public hearing by the city commission if the city commission is supportive of the application. So in summary, tonight's meeting is a procedural requirement. And while the city is hosting the meeting in accordance with these code requirements, that does not necessarily mean that the city is supportive of the application in its present form, in whole or part at this time. With that, we can proceed to the public comment section of the meeting.
Thank you so much. Again, we do have a lot of people on the call this evening. I want to thank you again to our elected officials, Mayor Stephen Miner, as well as his Deputy Chief of Staff, Blake Govin, Commissioner Alex Fernandez, Commissioner Tanya Bott, Commissioner Joe Magazine, member of Commissioner Laura Dominguez's office. Thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. So for Q&A, just want to go through kind of a bit of the, not the rules, but how we're going to participate tonight. You're going to click the raise your hand function on your Zoom. If you're on a mobile device, there should be 3 dots under the reactions. Go ahead and raise your hand that way. There are over 170 people at this point on the call. So we're going to ask everybody to try to keep their comments within 2 minutes. There's going to be a hard stop at 6:30 p.m. this evening. So at some point, we may lower the comment period to 1 minute per person. So with that, we're going to start our Q&A. We're going to ask everybody to please provide your name and address, and please keep your comments within 2 minutes so everyone could go ahead and speak. First caller is going to be Mr. Tim Carr. Hey, Tim, can you
Good
hear us?
evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yep. Go ahead. If you could just say.
Very good. Well, good evening, everyone. And again, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Tim Carr, Board President of the Bentley Bay 540 West Avenue. I and many of my colleagues continue to have dialogue with the buildings most impacted by the proposed 1250 redevelopment, which are Bayview Terrace, Monad Terrace, and the Waverly. We've encouraged the developer to continue to work with them to address their concerns over every aspect of the development, including height. Because the discussions are ongoing with these buildings, we are not taking any position at this time with respect to the proposed development. We do generally support the public benefit being offered for this project, including the closure of the Bikini Hostel and transforming it into a city-owned property with a civic purpose. We also support funding the completion of the Baywalk and other public benefit projects that will enhance our neighborhood for the residents. Examples include additional funding for the budget shortfall for the West Ave Phase 3 renovation from 8th Street to 14th Street, enhancements for our waterfront parklets at 10th Street, 14th Street, Lincoln Road, and Bay Road. Again, we look forward to continue the dialogue and working with everyone in this very productive process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tim. So I'm going to go to our next caller. I believe your screen name is for us. If you could just go ahead and state your full name and address for us. I apologize if I mispronounced that. Oh, sorry, I muted you. We're going to try that one more time.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes. Ferris Iquan, 1330 West Avenue. Mr. Stern, we all know you're capable of building something beautiful and profitable within as-of-right zoning. Your fellow mega developers at 5 Park gave Miami Beach over 100,000 square feet of prime Alton Road real estate, yet its out-of-scale height still created a massive backlash that every elected official to this day has to distance themselves from. And what are we being offered now? A tiny interior lot under 18,000 square feet and a couple dollars for an already funded city project. Esteemed commissioners and Honorable Mayor Minor, I voted for all of you because each of you promised to only support in-scale development going forward. Can you honestly look at these renderings and call them in scale? Can you honestly walk along West Avenue in front of petitioner's property and say that 360 feet or even 260 feet would be in scale? Miami Beach is now a $1 billion budget city. Her property valuations have more than doubled in the last few years. And I personally can say that I'm paying property taxes out the wazoo. But I'm glad to do that because Miami Beach does not need developer chump change charity for a boardwalk or anything else. The residents of Miami Beach are fed up with our laws being bent for mega developers or anyone else who can afford high-priced attorneys and fancy renderings. Finally, since the petitioner loves to compare his property to the Waverly, it bears repeating 3 points. The Waverly was built over 25 years ago under completely different market conditions. The Waverly lot is over 60% larger than petitioner's property. And unlike the Waverly, petitioner has a small frontage, singular frontage on West Avenue, whereas the Waverly has 200 feet on West Avenue and triple that on 14th Street. Mr. Stern, please, please, please build within existing zoning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go next to the next caller. It's Martin. If you could state your full name and address for us.
My name is Martin Moeller, also at 1330 West Avenue. I am an architectural curator, historian, and educator. And since the previous meeting of the planning board in which the proposed project was on the agenda, I've discussed this with literally dozens of residents who expressed nearly unanimous opposition to any tower taller than 150 feet. Interestingly, quite a few of the people with whom I spoke, without any prompting from me, immediately drew negative comparisons to Edgewater and Brickell. They chose to live in South Beach because of the neighborhood's scale, architectural character, and walkability. They, like me, view the explosive development in areas like Edgewater and Brickell as examples of what not to do. Building a taller tower at 1250 West Avenue would set a terrible precedent. If a height above 150 feet is approved, it won't be long before the same developer or another one will be back asking for even greater height for another project. The eventual result is likely a wall of buildings lining the perimeter of South Beach, surrounding a neglected interior as local businesses slowly die from a lack of patrons, because we all know perfectly well that the hyper luxury towers that the developers are salivating to build will largely sit empty. I'd like to conclude by asking the board and others not to be taken in by the development team's all too familiar bag of tricks. The team showed images supposedly depicting the various zoning options for the site. Of course, the option for an as-of-right development at 150 feet was depicted as a hideous pink brutalist blob, as if the same developer working with one of the same architecture firms hadn't already built a beautiful building of the same scale next door. During one presentation, a member of the team tried to claim that a tall tower would somehow magically cast smaller shadows than a shorter tower. How he could keep a straight face while making such an outrageously misleading statement is anyone's guess. Please do not fall for these tricks. Please limit any project to 1250 West Avenue or anywhere else between 5th Street and Dade Boulevard to 150 feet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next caller. Screen name is Gail Durham. If you could state your full name and address for us.
My name is Gail Durham. I live at 1504 Bay Road, which is in the West Ave neighborhood. I prefer that the developer match the height of 99% of the buildings on West Ave, because I don't want West Ave to look like a canyon or look like downtown Brickell. So here's my question to the developer, because why pursue this upzoning proposal when you already lobbied all 7 commissioners for support, yet not one commissioner would sponsor your ordinance? The upzoning you seek requires 6 out of 7 commissioners to vote in favor, yet you have failed to get even one commissioner to vote to support you. So why move forward? 450-foot tower, 360-foot tower does not resonate with the commission nor the community. So why shouldn't we consider this proposal dead?
Thank you so much, Gail. And I'm going to go to the next caller, and I'll just ask the team to stop me at any point. Let me see who we have next. Wayne, screen name Wayne, if you could state your full name and address for us.
Good evening, Wayne Roberts, south of 5th. Michael Stern is a New Yorker, so I'm going to be blunt with my position statement. I was very upset with the perception, at least, that the hostel took in homeless people to force the city's hand. And that's if it's true that they did it maliciously to force our hand to approve your project, I think that that's grounds for a complete dismissal of your project. I was affronted by it. Additionally, I don't use the Brickell as the example. I use Sunny Isle. I took a drive up there, and I lived in Sunny Isles when there were very few tall towers, and it was a lovely place to live. And now it's an environmental eyesore, and I would hate to see West Avenue turn into that example in Sunny Isles. And what's more, through political pressure, even the west side of Sunny Isles is getting upzoned. So on Collins Avenue. And I ask you, the middle class don't have a place to stay. That condo, the rates, you're buying up that condo, but the rates per unit are relatively inexpensive for middle class people. We're losing the ability for people that don't have hundreds of millions in their bank account to live comfortably in this city, or quite frankly, the country. And we can't continue to build mega rich condos for people that sell for $20-30 million, for people that have billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars to invest offshore or onshore. And we need to keep that condo the way it is to support middle class families. And I ask you to just back out and buy the hostel for the city as a gift. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roberts. We're going to go to the next screen name. We have, I believe it's Corrine. I apologize. The timer seems to be a bit lagging, but I'm definitely going to keep that going. See if I stop sharing and we'll come back to that. Name is Corrine?
Before we get into the next speaker, can I address a couple of the items that were brought up so far?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone so far for the comments. I'll address a couple of things. So Wayne, thank you for that. I'll just want to address for a second affordable housing. So the existing building is, as I said, in very poor physical condition and obsolete. And it's actually becoming unsustainable in terms of what the assessments to maintain that building will be over time. So the financial burden on the people that live there is already so crushing that people are stuck and kind of need a way out. And part of our way of addressing that, on the other side, we believe in a mix of housing and a mix of affordability, is taking an unprecedented public benefits package and allocating a portion of that, working with the city commission to either some sort of workforce or attainable housing that we can help create on the corridor. I'll say that from an urban planning standpoint, a bunch of switching to another criticism, which we respect everyone's opinion, a series of very blocky monolithic buildings of the same height along the corridor actually create, aside from an architecturally uninteresting skyline, something that casts the worst shadow. When you build a bunch of squat blocky buildings and put them all up in a row with very small setbacks, you get a pretty bad urban planning condition. And we want to build something that is respectful and contextual, but is iconic and something that everybody can be proud of. And we have a long history of creating very iconic buildings in varying contexts very successfully. And we think we would do a very good job of doing that here. So with that, I'll let the public
Right.
comment continue.
Kevin, can I make one more comment about an earlier thing
Sure,
that was-
please.
So the statement was made that the Bay Walk is fully funded by the GO bond. And that is inaccurate because the cost estimate set forth in the GO bond that was voted thankfully by our residents and approved, those construction cost estimates were from 2018. And as you all know, especially during the pandemic, construction costs have accelerated every year. So actually, it is not fully funded now, but we will step in to Floyd and of course take over all the hard and soft costs to construct these missing links of the Baywalk. So in that way, this is a great benefit to the city. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next caller. It's Corrine. And just a friendly reminder, if your hand is not up, please raise your hand on Zoom because when we get to the end of the meeting, I don't want to lose anybody. If you're on a mobile device, we have a few phone numbers. You're going to click *9 to raise your hand. Corrine, I apologize if I mispronounced that. Give us your full name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Corrine Kirkland. I live at 1345 West Avenue. I also am I've been on Miami Beach over 50 years. The destruction of West Avenue from a residential to started out a long time ago with the hotel overlays. I don't want to see another overlay put on this area. I don't want us turning into Sunny Isles. I don't want us linking like Brickell. We have lost so many residents in that area. We can't even support businesses. And one of the plans for this place was to put another restaurant, and we can barely support the ones that we have. I'd like to see much more middle-class housing. Again, more luxury apartments are just a waste of space, dwarfing his icon, the Mondrian. Monad Terrace is just so sad. We don't want restaurants and no more noise. Already with the Mondrian, many of the residents there complain. I'd like us that we stay to what we've asked when we put in all our commissioners, build to the right, stop transferring FAR and sweet deals. You know what? No. Anyway, thank you very much.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you so much. Next person's screen name is Randall. Randall, if you could just state your full name and address for us. Randall, you're gonna just need to unmute and try one more time. It should ask you to unmute.
Okay,
There you go.
my name is Randall Bodner. I live at 1300 Monad Terrace. Let's see here. I wrote an email. Then I'll kind of read some of my email, but basically, I'm very disappointed with Monad Terrace because the developer left when the building was 90% complete, completely disappeared. We got stuck with unpaid bills, unfinished work, incomplete structures, zero financial support to complete things such as faulty leaky roof, structural defects, promised amenities, and even the prepaid funds to prepare and complete our required 558 process, which we paid in to the pool. So the fact that you guys are considering giving bonuses to this developer, we're not happy with the way that the developer walked away from the building and still has not agreed to finish or settle the promised product or amenities. So I don't see why we would be giving them the right to build either option until the Miami Beach residents are, made whole and satisfied on what was promised to be delivered. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Next person with their hand up, we have Brian K. If you could say your full name and address for us.
Hi, this is Brian. I am from 1000 West Avenue here in Miami Beach. I want to thank the developer for being open to listen and tweaking the project. It's going in the right direction, which is downward. I think we already have a good example of the developer's ability to build a beautiful and responsibly developed building, and that's at the Monad Terrace. It has its problems, I'm sure, but the main issue is that asking for increased height is a problem for a lot of the reasons already mentioned on this call. As of right, as presented by the developer, is still a bit deceiving because we all know a block building like that is not within your palette. We can see whatever you have done before, and it would have been nice if you would at least given the right option so that people could really compare. Absolutely need to have public hearings on this, as spelled out by Michael Ballou earlier. And I worry that this increase in FAR or this creation of this overlay will set a precedent that allow there's developers that are sitting there waiting and watching the process to come forth with their own high rises. I am from Brooklyn, and I am familiar with this developer and the tallest building in Brooklyn. So I think that it seems to be that, everybody wants to build taller and higher, but we need to be cognizant of the environment, our neighborhoods, our communities, and build as of right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next person with their hand up. We have Darren, iPad Pro. If you could just state your full name and address for us. Darren, you just got to unmute yourself. It's going to send you a request there. We're going to try one more time. Next person is.
Perfect.
Oh, there you go, Darren.
Okay,
We're back.
Great. Thank you. Sorry about that. Darren Ratz, treasurer, representing the board of 1228 West Ave. Representing our board, obviously the timing of the meeting, many of our board members and owners are away on vacation or have other commitments, but obviously our building's one that will have one of the largest impacts in terms of what's constructed next to our building. So we're looking for the best outcome of our building. We're currently in conversations with the developer, supported by our attorney, Michael Gongora. We do have some mitigation concerns and issues around the project and immediate impacts to our buildings that we need to discuss and resolve with the developer. And we've just begun this process, but they do seem receptive to the discussions so far. We do plan to go to the city after we've had some significant discussions with the developer and our concerns are heard and resolved. At that point, we'll give our point of view on what we view as the overall project. Right now, we haven't completed that process, so we are reserving our comments until that process is completed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next caller. pull them up here. We have Carmen Page. Carmen, if you could just state your full name and address for us. And Carmen's going to ask you to unmute there. There you
Yes,
go.
my name is Carmen Page. I lived in 1200 West Avenue, apartment 1001. My question will be if you allow for this developer to build high rises next to us, will that be an invitation for our building to be knocked down next and build some other luxury building like that? I am really concerned about this project and to the well-being of the residents and to be forced out of our homes because of that trend that is being developed. So I will ask the city please not to allow this to happen because I think it will be an encouragement for other developers to want to push out the residents from their homes. So that's my comment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Page. Thank you for your comments. I'm going to go to our next person. We have Deborah. If you could state your full name and address for us.
How are you? Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Deborah Castaneda and I live in 650 West Avenue. To be honest, I'm very excited to share this support for this new project on 1250 West Avenue because I truly believe that Miami Beach should welcome innovative and modern architectural designers to its growth. The Bay Walk sounds like a fantastic addition to me, offering families a wonderful spots to walk by the water, enjoying the stunning views of Miami Beach. I found this building quite charming, to be honest, and I'm confident and I will be, enlaced to the beauty of the West Avenue neighborhood. I don't see any issues with that. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts and I wish you all happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And we're going to go to our next person with their hand up. We have Natalie K. If you could just state your full name and address for us.
Hello, my name is Natalie Kaufman. I live at 1450 Lincoln Road. My first comment is actually for you, Mr. Polito. I wish that you would turn on the chat function so that we in this community can see each other's names listed and can see our thoughts and exchange thoughts in the chat as we have in prior calls. It's an important part of us uniting as a community. And I think the developers tonight, you must be understanding that this community is 99% united against your proposals, both proposals. And I want to echo some of the other comments that were made tonight, including the fact that we voted for a mayor and a commissioner to preserve our city, to preserve the lifestyle that we have uniquely here in Miami, which is a walkable, bikeable, human-scaled city. We are not interested in becoming a Sunny Isles. We are not interested in becoming a Brickell. And I want to quote, I believe it was you, Mr. Stern, speaking of the blocky, monolithic, as of right version. I find it disingenuous for you to be presenting that version in the as of right scale. We all know that you have the talented architecture teams to develop something much nicer. And at the current zoning height, we will gladly take the setbacks that you propose that would preserve the views for your clients at Monad Terrace. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback. We'll look into, we typically never have a chat on these types of meetings. We have done a Q&A that you could type in Q&A, and I'll gladly take that back to our team and see if we could get those in the future. Next one is screen name Zoom user. If you could just state your full name and address for us. You doesn't look like you have a microphone plugged into your system. Just check if you're connected to audio. There you go. Looks like it popped up. Can't hear you just yet. Zoom user, it looks like you have a little bit of trouble there. I'm going to keep your hand up. We'll come right back to you. I have Candace.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Candace Padovic. I live on One Century Lane in Miami Beach. And about this development, I honestly am looking forward to it. I know that it seems like the community is very worried about the height, but my concern is the density. So if they're willing to take down the Bikini Hostel to put a park, that's one less building we have to worry about. So the height is not so much bothersome, it's the density. And the density is what you feel when you go to Sunny Isles and when you go to Brickell and these other areas that we're comparing the height of these buildings. Um, and then in addition to that, about the affordable housing, the value of the land is so expensive here in Miami Beach right now. There's no way a developer would ever build something that is 300,000, 500,000. It's just not feasible. So there's really no option for anything but a luxury building. And in this case, a very beautifully designed luxury building, and also benefits to the community at the park, saving that land reserved for a park and not another building. So that's where I stand on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go next to, I'm going to try the person just before, Zoom user. We're going to try you one more time. Again, the microphone does not appear. So we're going to come right back to you. Zoom user, it doesn't look like you have a mic associated, so we'll try that again. Next person is Yuri's iPhone. If you could just state your full name and address.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Uri Cerrulla, and I live at 1700 West 24th Street. I was born in Miami Beach. I've lived in Miami Beach for 30 years. And I want to thank first the team for presenting the project and for the efforts they're doing to bring in meaningful improvements to our community. I believe it's an amazing thing to replace a hostel with a park. And the completion of the Baywalk would be amazing also, especially since for runners, bikers, walkers, that's something that's amazing. It's going to bring peaceful environment, create a safer environment. It'll be more walkable. It'll be more welcoming for everyone, which is something that's very important for Miami Beach residents. Uh, Also, I wanted to say that one of the issues that's very important is affordable housing in Miami Beach. And I believe that with the help that this developer wants to do, uh, part of the money is going to go to affordable housing. So that's very good too. And it's encouraging to see thoughtful development that helps preserve the community for our residents. And as other people have said before, I believe we need to find ways to bring less density to our Miami Beach population, and projects like this one is gonna do that. So I just wanted to thank everyone, and I want to thank the people in the project and for prioritizing both the needs for the residents and for Miami Beach to be much better every time, which is the most important thing. And thank you to the mayor, to the commissioners for assisting, and to everyone in this project. And I completely agree with the project, and hopefully it gets through. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, and happy holidays.
Thank you so much. We're going to go to our next caller. Lorenzo, if you could state your full name and address for us. As we're approaching 6 o'clock, just friendly reminder, we are going to start lowering the allotted time to 1 minute after this person. Lorenzo?
How you doing? I currently live at 1450 Lincoln Road, and I'm really concerned with the project because how do you guys imagine it? There's been great examples here about Sunny Isles. By 12 o'clock, that park is not going to have any sun. None of the residents behind that building will have any sun because when you build up such a big tower, you're basically getting rid of the sun by 1 o'clock. So and also, how do you plan to deal with the traffic and all the everything that's happening in Miami, in that area, and infrastructure? What's happening with infrastructure? What are you guys doing about the infrastructure? I don't think they're really thinking out. So I think it's a horrible idea to to build a building, such a high building. And I agree with everybody else that it will invite other developers to knock down buildings in order to rebuild and move people out of their homes, current homes.
Great, thank you so much. We're gonna go to our next caller, Massimo. I apologize if I mispronounced that. If you could just state your full name and address for us.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1345 Lincoln Road. You know, I live in the neighborhood, obviously, and I think this is an incredible project. You know, I walk on the Baywalk every day, like I'm sure most people on this call do, and it is frustrating that it's not fully lined up. And with this, I think it'd be great. Look, I think everyone's comparing Sunny Isles on the call. This is nowhere near the same height. It's similar to the Waverly. I think this building, having friends in that building, hearing the horror stories of what's going on, of people, you know, with mold issues and whatnot, I agree. I mean, I think unfortunately this is a teardown, and I think, you know, JDS, the developer, has done an incredible job with other projects. They do have a good track record, and I think this will be a great part of our city, and to be able to get a park as well, or some sort of garage, you know. And the other person said too, less, you know, the traffic and the infrastructure, but this would be 100 units. You'd actually have less traffic, and I think it would add to the neighborhood that we have.
Thank you so much. We're gonna go to our next person, Marco. If you could state your full name and address for us. It's gonna ask you to unmute, Marco. It's gonna send you a request. And as Marco, as you get unmuted, it looks like you just unmuted. Just want to remind everybody, if you don't have an opportunity to speak tonight, this is the first of 2 needed community meetings per the city code. You could also email me at kevinpolito@miamibeachfl.gov. It's my first name, last name at miamibeachfl.gov. Marco, can you hear us?
Yes, hi. My name is
Hi
Marco Gnatovich. I've lived in Miami Beach for about 20 years. I'm a real estate broker with also 12 years of hospitality experience. I recently moved to the Sunset Harbor townhomes. I witnessed the city blossom, you know, over the last 20 years, especially the last 5 years. And I very much approve of the buildings, the businesses, and the quality of individuals that have transformed the city for better while keeping the charm of Miami. My business partner actually lives at the Waverly and owns a few units there as well. So I spent a lot of time working out of there and really looking out the windows all the time. And, you know, just from looking out, I really believe we need more unique designed buildings. You know, I'm excited about making the Miami Beach skyline stunning. When I cross the bridge, I see some beautiful high towers, and I really believe that there's room for some spectacular more. We saw what Michael Stern and team and Kobe Karp did to the aesthetic of the neighborhood, and this project would be a home run for the city. The park would be super cool, as there are so many pedestrians and dog walkers in the area, and to have a park with like an amazing view, I think it will be very special. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Marco, excuse me. We're gonna go next to Alex. If you could state your full name and address for us. And again, if your hand is not up at this time, please ensure it's up so that way we could continue with the meeting. We know how many are in queue.
Alex Xakoustis. I live on 50 South Point Drive. I've been a resident in Miami Beach for 25 years. I love Miami Beach. I'm very surprised that people don't like this building. This building is gorgeous. You go and you see Miami Beach from the water or from Brickell, and it looks like an old city. Some of these people complaining, but they love the views, looking at the Brickell, that they criticize it. Brickell Avenue downtown looks fantastic, a nice skyline. So I think we should have 4, 5, 6 buildings like this to create a nice skyline. This is going to bring the comps up. The density goes down. It's a win-win situation. Makes no sense why someone would not like that. You have someone who's trying to modernize the city and you want to sabotage him. I don't get it. Maybe a couple of people lose a little bit of a view, but you know, what about the rest of us? You know, what about everyone else who comes from the bridge? You can see and know the city of Miami Beach. Sunny Isles get modernized. Yes, I agree. 2 tall buildings, Brickell 2 tall buildings, but we're talking about a little bit better looking buildings, lower density. It's a win-win.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'm going to go next to Sandra's iPhone. If you could state your full name and address for us. It's going to ask you to unmute. Just make sure there you go, Sandra.
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm not going to be speaking, but a friend of mine will be speaking and stating her opinion regarding this project.
Okay, is she there?
Hi, my name is Marcely Lopez. I live on West Avenue and 8th Street for 20 years. And I'm very much encouraging in the project, and I hope it could go through because I would love to see the boardwalk and the park, and hope the JDC project can go through, and it would be real a win-win for Miami Beach. And I thank you and have a blessed day and Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. We're going to go next to Mariana. Mariana, if you could say your full name and address for us. I apologize if I mispronounced that. There you go.
I was good. My name is Mariana. I live in the Flamingo Tower, so 1508 Bay Road. And in my opinion, as the most stunning cities right now, they evolve, they're looking for open and green space are central for their growth and innovation. And keeping West Avenue and the Bay Walk in their current state is just overlooking a rare opportunity we have to showcase one of the most breathtaking landscapes we have right now in the whole Miami Beach and even Miami. And if someone here even say about Miami Beach being a bicycle city, we just can't bike in Bay Walk right now. And I think the current developer already built one of the most iconic buildings on West Avenue, if not the whole South Miami Beach. And the proposed development right now has the potential to create another unique building on the area. And the long-term benefits are super clear, generating like public value for the city, improving the Bay Walk, elevating neighborhoods appeal and property values. On top of that, if we just look at the current buildings, the current building is both iconic and not out of scale. If we take like Flamingo, the one I live, and Waverly, they're all huge buildings. We can't say here is out of scale when the buildings in the area are the same height, but much more larger and blocky. And really, if density matters, we're looking.
Thank you so much. We gave you a few extra seconds there. We're going to go next to Austin, screen name. If you could say your full name for us.
Hi, my name is Austin. Can you hear me?
Yep. If you could just tell us your name and address.
Yes, I'm resident in Miami Beach. I'm located on West Avenue. I've been attending to your meeting for the past couple of months, and I've been listening carefully to the presentation. I mean, this is a great project. It's the new Miami Beach. We live in a city where it's international, and this is exactly what we're looking for the next generation. I truly support this project, as I feel that most of the buildings on West Avenue are old and outdated. This new project will just bring life and beauty to the neighborhood, and also we need this bay to be completely finished at some point. It's one of my favorite things to do, and we're pretty active out there. This needs to be done and hopefully approved soon. So I'm with the team, I support the project, and I'm here to listen as well. Everybody's suggestions and concerns. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next person's screen name is Steven. Oh, sorry, Steven. I muted you there. If you could just unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yes, my name is Steven Stark. I'm in 1330 West Avenue, Unit 2202, which is the Waverly. I joined the earlier speakers regarding objecting, at least in the form as presented by the developer, the request for the FAR changes. Number one, I support the skepticism of the city staff when they talked about that they were essentially asking for too much value for a height increase. They also specifically talked about that even assuming that you would give something to them, that the recommendation was 300 feet or less. I urge that it stay at the 150 feet. They are not going to develop a building that does not look like the Monad and looks like this as of right building. The reason why it's less dense is because it's going to be more expensive for those units. I don't think any of the things that are being offered is sufficient to allow the city to violate its promise to its residents. I've lived here for 16 years and 40 years in Miami. I think that it should be not granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. We're going to go next to screen name is Amy's iPhone. If you could say your full name and address for us.
Yes, hello, Amy Litos at 650 West Avenue. I would like to address a few of the comments made by some of the callers. What those of us who object to this project are stating is that we believe that we need to update West. There are some buildings that need to be perhaps raised to the ground and rebuilt, but that doesn't mean that we need to be building at 2 times or 2.5 times as of right. And for those callers who believe that a density of nearly 6.0, which is really among the highest density in all of Miami Beach, which would be the blue diamond, green diamond, is applicable here, I would say that they're mistaken. And I would also say that a height of nearly 400 feet would not be considered charming by most people. 400 feet is really quite obtrusive. And for another caller who stated that he likes to look at the skyline on Brickell, well, a skyline by definition is something you look at from a distance. You don't live in it. So I would say, please do not support this project. It is not consistent with the neighborhood. And that is also borne out by the planning department's own assessment, where out of 13 criteria, they
Thank you, Amy. I gave you a few extra seconds as we did with the earlier caller. We're going to go to James. James, if you could state your full name and address for us. James, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry about that. James Catoulis at Monad Terrace. So I'd just like to say that myself and a lot of the residents here at Monad, we love Stern's designs. It's a beautiful building. It's 90% great. The proposed design next door is beautiful. It's got a very narrow footprint abutting our property rather than Waverly kind of creates a wind tunnel on one side. But we do urge the city commission to make sure that Stern resolves our 558 process here before granting a waiver. There are a couple material defects. And I will say Stern has reached out to myself and some other residents. He seems amenable to resolving that, but we do want to see that get meaningfully on the way before a zoning waiver gets approved.
Thank you so much. Next person is Liz. If you could state your full name and address for us.
Hi, Liz Hirschfield, 1330 West Ave. So I agree with a lot of the concerns echoed, particularly about turning this neighborhood into Brickell or Sunny Isles. And I love one of the last comments saying like a skyline is what you look at from afar, not what you live in. And I think, I actually, on a positive note, think that the building, the rendering is beautiful. The idea of a park in place of the hostel, amazing. Finishing the Baywalk, amazing. The height just has to come down. I think that the building needs to be replaced. You can tell that it's old and it has to be replaced, and it will be at some point. But just bring the height down further. I think it's great that it already has started, but I think it absolutely has to stay in that current 150-foot regulation. And then the community will be happy with it primarily. So it feels like an easy adjustment to make and kind of satisfy the regulations and make the folks who live in this neighborhood and be impacted by it feel positive about the development.
Great. Thank you so much. We're going to go to a phone number ending in 5423. If you're on the phone, I believe it's *6 to unmute yourself. There you go. You're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yep. If you could just tell us your name and address.
My name is Alice Nasser. I used to live at 1250 West Ave. Now I'm on 16th and Jefferson. I just want to thank our city officials. I'm really inspired by our community as well. And thank you, Michael, to the developer for taking the time to hear us and hopefully listen. I would like to ask who these apartments are for and what the buyouts for the people in 1250 are currently. When I was looking at the median household income in Miami Beach, it's close to $200,000, which is well above the national median. And we already have 5 parks that's being built. Those apartments start at 1, go up to 20 million. Monad's lowest current listing available for sale is 4.4. So I want to know when you're proposing affordable for who? And also I'd like the developers to think more creatively about our community. The first rendering as right is really uninspired. If you can build something so stunning and iconic next door and do a rendering, why can't you put the same sort of effort for a building that serves the needs of the community? And also, it doesn't feel.
Thank you. I apologize. We gave you a few extra seconds, as we did with others. We do have a lot people on the call still. So we're gonna try to keep all our comments within the 1 minute. Screen name is Jill. Jill, if you could state your full name and address for us.
Hi, my name is Gil Talinci. I'm at 1330 West Avenue. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yep.
I echo many of the thoughts of the residents that are concerned about the building height. I think the size and the scope of the project is out of character for the neighborhood. And I'm also concerned about the increased potential congestion. There's a lot of people who love to walk. I observe a lot of families with baby strollers and all of that. And I think West Avenue is quite congested enough. So I would not be supportive of a project of this size and scope. However, something similar to the Monad would be more appropriate for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Next is screen name is Mike. If you could state your full name and address for us. You just need to unmute. There you go.
This is Mike Dorsch. I'm at 1330 West Avenue. I was at the planning board meeting before. What's a mystery to me is why we trade FIR bonus for trumping what has been a very successful height restriction along West Ave. I also find it humorous that this developer is talking about creating affordable housing when he's taking 238 units of affordable housing off the market. If you really want to help affordability, why don't you provide some low interest loans to those owners so they can afford the improvements necessary to bring the project up to date? I think shipping Camilla's house people to this neighborhood is an affront to every single one of us. I think losing occupants of an affordable nature with absentee owners will cause more restaurants and small businesses to close. And I think that bribing the city by offering $9 million of just free money, use it as you want, wherever, should be pretty apparent that this is just trying to buy off for their own personal profits. So for all those reasons and more, this project should, as I said before, be dead on arrival.
Thank you, Mike, for your comments. We're going to go to our next person with their hand up. I believe its screen name is Justin. If you could say your full name and address for us.
Yes, this is Justin Danko, resident, one of the penthouses in Monad Terrace. So I'm actually not against the project itself. I just want to make sure the commission holds Stern accountable for the project and all the elements that he's promising. He made many promises when our building was built, including a boat dock, which he never delivered. There's been a leak in our elevator vestibule for 2 years, which he's refused to fix. Many other leaks in windows, non-functioning shower pans, pocket doors coming off the hinges. All issues that we've had to deal with our own money, otherwise they'd never be fixed. This is the indicative of the kind of developer Stern is, and we should not allow him to build a project until he finishes the last one. Now, I would never buy another unit from him. We shouldn't allow him to start work on this project until he completes the 558 on the Monad, and we shouldn't give him a COI without building the park and other portions of this project that he's promised to improve the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Trying to just get our timer fixed, but you were right on time. Next person, screen name Enrique. If you could state your full name and address for us. Hey, Enrique, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can.
Okay, Enrique Escobar. I live at 1200 West Avenue. I've been a resident on West Avenue since 1995. I'm an owner in the Mirador. Basically, it's just kind of ironic. When the developer offered two versions of it, one was ugly and one was tall, and they said, buy a park and then fix the Baywalk. To me, you're talking about dessert. Let's talk about the main course. The main course is building 3 on the scale of the rest of the buildings around it. From afar, you basically look at our buildings as a lower income compared to your new building. I don't see the value in it at all. And the fact is, the city should not be just releasing these FAR requirements. They're there for a reason. We vote people in to protect those reasons. so far, everything he's proposing? No, absolutely not. And everybody I've bet to on West Avenue says the same thing. Everybody tonight on this call from West Avenue has been saying the same thing. Leave it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enrique. We're going to go next to Susanna. Susanna, if you could say your full name and address for us. Just make sure that you unmute. There you go.
Hi, my name is Susanna. Live on 1200 West Avenue, very close to the proposed projects. I would say that at this point, it's pretty clear that the only people in favor of this obscene monstrosity are realtors or people that are reading from an endorsement script or people who don't live close by. We as residents don't need a statement piece or a spectacular, iconic, tremendous, whatever you guys have been calling it, egomaniacal project that will be that we will be stuck for eternity, like Park 5 is. And then the developer will walk away, and we are left with empty promises. We've been burned before. Park 5, it's took years. We still don't have the pedestrian bridge that was promised to us. Pieces of the Baywalk. The park is smaller than it was proposed, and also it came with a cuckoo egg of another building that was supposed to be snuck in. So it's also absolutely ridiculous to show renderings to residents that are not to scale, that are outdated. They're allegedly the dimensions have changed, so it takes a few seconds for an architectural student to adjust height, size, anything in a computer program.
Thank you, Susanna. I apologize. I gave you a few extra seconds there as well. I'm going to go next to George. George, you have two devices, so there might be an echo. Let's see if this works.
Devices. I'm disconnected from. So.
Oh, good. We could hear you. Oops. Let's try to lower hand.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Now you're good.
Okay. Perfect. So my name is Jorge. I live in 9 Island Avenue. And I actually just finished my master's degree in real estate development. I highly support this project. I think it's an amazing building that will add value to the community. The design is impressive. We need more buildings like this in Miami Beach. It seems that the building is in context with all the existing buildings on the west of Miami Beach, and it will drive economic activity. It will create jobs. And it will provide more commercial space and support the community. I think it enhances the infrastructure of the city, and it will attract investment. So I'm just happy to see this type of projects coming to Miami Beach.
Thank you, Jorge. Next person's screen name is HOV. If you could just go ahead and identify yourself and let us know your address.
Yeah, I'm Paul from 1250 West Avenue. I have a question for Mr. Stern. If this new zoning doesn't get approved and he doesn't get to build bigger and better and higher with the new FAR, what is his backup plan? And also, a lot of people are being priced out of the neighborhood, forced out of the building, and no one knows what anyone's got. But surely it's not enough to stay living in this neighborhood. We're being priced out of the neighborhood, everybody in the building.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to go next to screen name is Jeffrey. And at the end, we're going to do a clarification on what are the next steps in terms of community outreach. And we'll also give the applicant an opportunity to address anything in kind of his closing remarks. Jeffrey, if you could say your full name and address for us.
Yes, Jeffrey Giordano. I live at 1330 West Avenue. Thanks for all the presentation and for the comments. I just want to reiterate what everyone has been saying. The building is currently projected is completely out of scale. And yes, it's beautiful. And yes, Michael Stern makes beautiful projects. I'm familiar with him from New York. I'm actually a real estate agent that opposes this project. I think it's way out of character from the neighborhood. And I do believe that he can build as right, like he did with Monad Terrace, and create something beautiful. Or if not, go elsewhere, because we want to keep Miami Beach in the character that it currently is. It's to the benefit of all of the community, to keep the integrity of the community as is. Thank you and have a happy holiday.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go next to Roberto. If you can say your full name and address for us.
Yes, good evening. My name is Roberto Donoso at 1228 West Avenue. I've been a resident of West Avenue and a unit owner for 20 years. I want to add my position against this development. I would like to point out first how it's interesting that all the people that are supporting on this call this project, the majority of them do not live on West Avenue. Supporting luxury development and pricing people out should not be the answer. As everybody has said, we voted the mayor and the commissioners to counting on them to keep the promise of respecting the current FARs. And I think it can be done. Nobody's asking to keep a dilapidated building up. We can build, but we should not be subjected to wishes of rich developers that are going to make so much money by just giving away parks and chunks of the Baywalk, which is really a drop in the bucket compared to the money they're going to be making pricing people out of here.
Thank you. Next person, screen name is Jessica. If you could say your full name and address for us. Jessica, we can't hear you. It looks like you've unmuted though. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can. Yep.
Great. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Davis. I live at 1228 West Avenue on the north side. I'm keeping an open mind about all of this. I respect the wishes of my board, so I'm not speaking to the project itself. But I would like to say that I find it disingenuous that all the callers from 1330 West Avenue and the Floridian live in two of the tallest towers on West Avenue are opposed to this project. If you were so opposed to tall buildings, why did you move into them in the first place? And I do agree with the woman who spoke earlier about what it costs to buy waterfront property now on a barrier island. Unfortunately, it does not allow a developer to build affordable housing on the water. It's the sad reality. It is happening everywhere in this country and in many places in Europe. It's what it is. My heart breaks for people who may be forced off this beach. But as far as this piece of property next door is concerned, this is not something.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. We give you a few extra seconds there. Next is Todd Davis. Probably.
Yes,
sure.
no relation.
Okay. Alrighty. You are up.
I live at 1330 West Avenue. I love my parents, and is there an echo?
No.
Okay. So I just don't understand why this developer should be granted sorry, I got an echo here. Basically I bought because I wanted my view. There was no way that anybody could have taken those views away when I bought back in 2012. And I don't understand how the city now is just saying, well, whatever, we're going to grant these new heights to these new developers. And I think developers, if they can make money on Monad Terrace, they should be able to make the money on this location at the same height and build within the restrictions. If I had wanted to live in downtown Miami amongst all of the high rises, I would have bought in downtown Miami amongst all the high rises. This is Miami Beach, it's not downtown Miami.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davis. We're going to go to screen name is Reed. If you could state your full name and address for us. Reed, it does not look like you have any type of microphone connected. You could just, oh, there you go.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you. Yep.
How's it going? My name is Reed Heidney. I live at the Waverly 13th I'm a big fan of this project. I think, compared to south of Fifth, we always are kind of we get no respect. It's not really considered a nice neighborhood. And I think what Mr. Stern has proposed, it will be incredible for the neighborhood and kind of bring us up to the level that we should be with our views, our location next to Lincoln Road. So I'm a big fan of this building, big proponent. I love it, and I hope you guys pass it.
Thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to go to our final caller, which I believe you might have spoken again. So if you did, please just let us know. Brian Kay, have you spoken yet?
Yes, I had, and I did forget to mention one aspect of this whole process in that I received an anonymous.
I'm sorry, Brian. I'm trying to keep it to anyone who has not spoken. For those of you who have additional comments, I am gonna. Yeah, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. Well, first, let's go to Michael, and then I'm going to have Mr. Belush explain next steps in the process and where you could share those comments for those who had additional comments or anonymous comments. Michael Stern?
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for participating. We value all of your feedback. I'll just say that cities need to evolve and grow, or they stagnate and die. I think that that has to be done respectfully, and that's part of this process. That's why the elected run this amazing process that gathers all of this feedback. But with respect to some of the comments, we're talking about buildings that are less than half the height of downtown and Brickell and Sunny Isles. Those comparisons don't hold. Those buildings are between 649 feet tall, and some of them are over 1,000 feet tall. We're talking about a building here that isn't anywhere near that. And we're talking about a building that is a quarter or an eighth of the density of some of those buildings by floor area. So it's really not a great comparison. And I think that we need to continue to grow this amazing corridor and do it in a respectful, responsible way. But the answer isn't to just do the same stagnant development that's currently being done. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael Belush.
And Michael, we're just going to send you a request to unmute there.
Thanks. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep.
Great, thanks. So just for the public's information, on January 7th, the planning board will vote only on the continuance of the application to the February 4th meeting. So February 4th will be the next meeting where any updates to the proposal will be discussed by the planning board, and the public will again have a chance to provide their comments at that time.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So that's how you could go ahead and participate in this process. Again, you could always feel free to email me, Kevin Polito at miamibeachfl.gov, and I'm happy to share your comments. Thank you all. Have a great and happy holidays. I think for respect to public meetings, we'll see you next year. So thank you, everybody.